Video assistant referees are the new Heath Ledger. Cristiano Ronaldo does Cristiano Ronaldo things. Zlatan lets his clothes do the talking. A couple of Americans might be getting new European clubs. And we take a moment to remember Tony DiCicco. It's Thursday, June 22nd, which means happy 26th birthday to Montreal Impact defender Ambrose Ayongo, who is currently on international duty with Cameroon at the Confederations Cup. Much more on that tournament in just a bit, but for now, from Dirty Tackle, Howler Magazine, and the Total Soccer Show, this is The Goalmouth, your daily serving of bite-sized soccer news. I'm Taylor Rockwell, and I'm bringing you all the muck that's fit to rake. Up first, remember that famous scene in The Dark Knight in which Bruce Wayne attempts to figure out the motivations of the Joker, and then his trusty manservant Alfred notes that some men just want to watch the world burn? Well, that sentiment seems to accurately explain the motivations of FIFA when they decided to implement video assistant referees. Just to clarify, I don't really believe that, and I'm actually a fan of VAR, but I'm also afraid that Twitter will come burn my house down if I loudly proclaim my belief in video replay, so that's why I'm whispering right now. Anyway, Wednesday's Confederations Cup match between Mexico and New Zealand, which Mexico did eventually win 2-1, would most likely have been remembered for a rather colorful outburst from Mexico manager Juan Carlos Osorio after defender Carlos Salcedo went down with a significant injury. But then came the closing minutes, in which a quote-unquote professional foul by Diego Reyes led to a violent scrum, which could have seen around 4 or 5 players sent off. The center official seemed slightly overwhelmed by the situation and elected to award a free kick and no cards. That second point seems most significant, given that when we broke the incident down on the Total Soccer Show, we saw at least 3 different players hit each other in or about the face. The real confusion came once the official consulted with his VARs, handed out 2 yellows, allowed the free kick to be taken, immediately whistled the play dead when the ball was already in the air, mind you, consulted with his VARs again, and then issued a yellow card to Reyes, the man who should have been booked about 4 seconds after the foul as opposed to 4 minutes after the foul. Despite the confusion and subsequent social media anger, I am still inclined to believe that VAR will end up being a useful system once all the wrinkles get ironed out. But if you disagree, and I'm sure many of you do, then feel free to contact me and let me know by sending an email to daryl@totalsoccershow.com. In other Confederations Cup news, Portugal handed host nation Russia a 1-0 defeat, but they didn't make it look easy. The reigning European champions jumped out to an early lead in the 8th minute, courtesy of a Cristiano Ronaldo header. But Portugal failed to kill the game off until the final whistle went, and no doubt made at least a few of their fans more nervous than was probably necessary. Ronaldo will likely get the headlines for the win, particularly since it means he has now scored in every major tournament in which he has played. But I think Rafael Guerreiro deserves some credit for an inch-perfect ball from about 45 yards away that led to Ronaldo's headed goal. If you want to take a look at that sublime ball, you can find a link in today's Goalmouth email. More Confederations Cup matches on tap for Thursday, with Cameroon-Australia kicking off at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Germany-Chile at 2. That's going to be a good one. No disrespect to Cameroon-Australia, mind you, but I mean, come on. Germany-Chile, let's do this. One man who is not at the Confederations Cup, but could probably win it all by himself if he really wanted to, is Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Things have been all quiet on the Ibra front since Manchester United announced that they would not hand the striker a new contract, especially since he will be spending the next 6 months or so recovering from injury. But now the rumor mill has kicked into high gear. Zlatan sportswear company A to Z, or A-Z, or AZ, or something like that, put out a photo on Instagram of the Swedish striker. That, in and of itself, isn't so shocking, until you note that the overlaid text, which was strongly reminiscent of LAFC's new color scheme, read, "Welcome to Los Angeles," and the caption for the photo was, "The journey continues." Fans and sports editors alike immediately jumped on the posting as evidence that Ibrahimovic would be calling MLS home sometime in 2018. My opinion is that, at the very least, this was an intentional move to generate some headlines rather than, say, an innocent coincidence. Then again, I would happily drive hundreds of miles to watch Zlatan play in Major League Soccer, so maybe that factors into the equation just a little bit. Some US-centric transfer news now. Reading midfielder Danny Williams will soon be former Reading midfielder Danny Williams if reports out of the UK are to be believed. The American's hopes of playing in the Premier League were dashed when his club side were eliminated by Huddersfield on penalties in the promotion playoff final. But now it appears he might still get some time in England's top flight with the aforementioned Huddersfield. Williams is currently a free agent, having recently turned down a new contract from Reading. However, according to the Daily Star, that will soon change. Quote, Williams will sign a contract with the newly promoted club when the transfer window officially opens in July, end quote. Whether or not playing in the Premier League gets him any looks from Bruce Arena remains to be seen. Meanwhile, over in Germany, Hertha Berlin seem inclined to fill the American void left by John Brooks when he was transferred to Wolfsburg by offering a 10-day trial to USU 20 goalkeeper Jonathan Klinsmann. When asked about the potential move, Hertha's Hungarian-born manager Paul Dardai gave about the most German response possible. Quote, "We want to get to know him, especially our goalkeeping coach Zsolt Petri. That's why we want to take a look at him." End quote. That is some solid reasoning there. I don't know much about Dardai, but I'm guessing the adjective most frequently used to describe him is pragmatic. According to ESPN, if Klinsmann is able to, quote, convince Dardai and Petry, the club could offer him a contract and a role as the third-choice keeper, end quote. And finally, sticking with U.S. soccer news, on a somber note, I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the passing of Tony DiCicco, the legendary coach of the U.S. women's national team. George emailed on Wednesday morning to say that he had forgotten to include the news of the Hall of Famer's passing and asked me to mention it today. So, in case you missed the news, DiCicco passed away at his home on Monday following a prolonged battle with cancer. The 68-year-old coached the U.S. women's national team to landmark victories in the 1996 Olympics and the 1999 Women's World Cup. In his 5 years in charge of the team, DiCicco compiled a record of 103 wins, 8 draws, and 8 losses. I've done the math for you. That's a winning percentage of 86.6%, which, you heard it here first, is pretty decent. And with that, we've come to the end of yet another Goalmouth episode. You can explore all these stories in more depth by subscribing to our newsletter. The link, as ever, is in the show notes. If you want to help us grow the show, iTunes reviews are always appreciated. I'm particularly fond of Pulp45, who wrote, quote, "Five Guys Burgers and Fries is great, but it's got nothing on these five guys and their bite-sized soccer news," end quote. I very much appreciate that sentiment and mostly agree, unless, of course, we're talking about Cajun fries, in which case all bets are off. And on that note, I've been Taylor Rockwell. The consistently charming and always caffeinated Ryan Bailey will be with you tomorrow, but until then, here's your Goalmouth top tip. Do not curse at Juan Carlos Osorio. He definitely does not like that.